things like the Mordekaiser and the Akali this time around. But what does Jin Air do on red?
I think something like a Galio also was the hidden power that helped the Akali to snowball as hard as she did. Always a snowball champion, but having some extra damage reduction never hurt.
Yep, very true.
And Galio will be banned on blue side. Crown's played it once, but not willing to return to it. Game 1 bans were a lot about AD carry, especially as the draft went on. So we'll see where the adjustments are. Paris ban was an intriguing one in the first series. I don't think we're going to be seeing that again. And Kalista is the adaptation.
All right, Kalista going to be taken away from Teddy. Makes a heck of a lot of sense. But now, do they leave up the Syndra? Do they leave up the Elise? What is going to be that pick that does make it through into Samsung's hands?
I think you give up Syndra and then take Rek'Sai to answer Elise would be the way to go. So you ban Syndra, sorry,
yes.
And then leave up the Elise to go through and take the Rek'Sai as an answer. They're going to leave up Syndra. Now, this is certainly playing with fire. This is them saying, okay, we'll just take Ashe and put Ruler in an awkward spot AD carry-wise.
Oh, but it's going to be Karma with the priority. Does mean that now Jin Air have a lot of options that they can go to. Kuzan can head towards the Syndra if he wants to. They can pick that one up and then hop back on the Rek'Sai if they feel like it.
And Samsung may be able to get both, because they could just take a support Karma and take Syndra in the next round, because you're not expecting Kuzan to lock Syndra into a Karma first pick.
That is a very good point. Well, it is going to be the Rek'Sai at least.
And that's also something to discuss, Atlas, because that is Rek'Sai being taken with only Lee Sin and Zac as junglers who are banned away. So taking it as a priority over the Elise. I thought Ambition should consider that in previous series because of how great he looked in the series last time out against Longzhu on the Rek'Sai. Doesn't get that option here, and I mentioned taking away the Ashe, and that's probably the smart move, given the AD carry pool with Caitlyn, Varus, and the Kalista band is already getting into the doldrums when it comes to a selection for Ruler.
Yeah, and of course, going into this series as well, I mean, there were two champions that Teddy had a winning record on, and it was the Ashe and the Caitlyn. His Xayah wasn't looking as good, so that one is going to be overlooked. And now the Twitch insta-locked by Ambition for Ruler.
Now he has the Karma. It also will be a draft around the Twitch, as you can see, with the confirmation of it being a mid lane Karma and a support Tahm Kench. We saw Ruler play this in the Forever game against Longzhu Gaming. Went the longest of the season.
Forever game, it's exactly what it was.
And it's worth noting that Ruler opened up very aggressively and died multiple times, most famously opening up behind the enemy Nexus and looking for his ult to get picked. So I would say while he wasn't necessarily looking poor on Twitch, it didn't necessarily look like prey on Twitch, or perhaps a top-rate Twitch player. Now you can redefine that with a good performance in this series, and already does have shields and a Devour to help him out. Jin Air just going for full lane power. If they can just win the 2v2 handily and Omti on the Rek'Sai can path like he did in game 1, maybe there's not going to be the point where Twitch hits 3 to 4 items and can really start powering through the members of Jin Air.
Well, Cuve's going to have his pick of the litter when it comes to top laners here, as I believe it will be an Elise Gragas ban coming out on the side of Jin Air. It feels a little bit silly not to take the opportunity to crush Ambition's picks, and that is going to be the case. So the Cassiopeia taken away from Kuzan makes some sense. See what they take away next. It's Taliyah.
And the Gragas definitely the highest priority takeaway, most played by Ambition, and also the sort of pick they found so much value with. We mentioned how they weren't going to be too keen in drafting Syndra into Karma, because Karma can usually nullify. Could still be a consideration, but I'm thinking like the Orianna could also be drafted, and instead, Kuzan will go back to his old playbook. So they see a team that's built around team fighting with a couple of items on a Twitch and say, well, we don't want a team fight. We want to play the side lanes. And having the LeBlanc to play side lanes and also counterpick on the top lane is pretty crucial, Atlas, because now, theoretically, they can push mid, break a turret in the side lanes, rotate LeBlanc to it, and also counterpick Cuve and play the 1-3-1 and never allow there to be the 5v5 fights that you assume are being drafted to with Karma, Twitch, and the Tahm Kench. Bit of a pivot from Samsung. They will be taking the Renekton for lane power. But what does Ixu want to take into it? I see you smiling. I don't think it's going to be the Akali.
But the Singed is another fun one. And going back to, you were mentioning playbooks. Ixu has played that one before.
This is a risky matchup to take Singed into.
Just play Akali, man. Oh,
even the crowd was depressed, Atlas.
Yeah, well.
The Singed into Camille. I definitely can see Ixu doing that in the future.
Yeah.
But the Singed into Renekton sounded like a bad time. So the Rumble has been working much better for Ixu in summer than ever before. A champion that he never could find success on his previous team, or even on Jin Air in spring season, has become a lot better. A lot of magic damage on the side of Jin Air Greenwings, given that they have double magic damage, solo lanes, and also a Zyra. But Samsung are going to be looking for a confidence booster. Even a kill or an early objective would bring them back into the series in a big way. They've been perfect game before by KT Rolster. Now they've been perfect game by Jin Air. It's such a different story. And Samsung, a team that are feeling like they can be the regular season champions, want to find a way to get through Jin Air. It would be humiliating to go down 2-0 and then have to face a long flight to Rift Rivals.
Certainly would. They want momentum moving in to their matches against the LMS and the LPL. Might be difficult, because Jin Air have put themselves together a composition that looks like comfort. Having Kuzan on a champion that he has played a lot so far, even this season, but a lot in the past as well. And the Rek'Sai from Monty looked so good. Even Ixu had a lot of comfort as Teddy's on a positive win weight champion. There are a lot of good stories for Jin Air, but there is so much for Samsung and a beautiful curve moving into the late game. We'll see whether they can make it work as we hop onto the Rift. That is how you lead a cheer, Papa Smithy. That is beautiful. Samsung once again going to be grouping up as 5, moving down towards the bottom side.
And do some scouting if they want to invest the ambush level 1 for the Twitch, or just group as 5 and see what happens. Are we back to the spring meta of killing supports as they try to patrol the bot lane? Samsung fans in the crowd.
Oh, thank goodness. I almost had a heart attack because we were having a look at the fans, and then Snowflower could have been dead. But he wasn't. It's going to be okay.
Does mean that they can, on the top side of the map, get some answering vision here, Jin Air. So even though they surrendered the foremost brush.
Yeah, I like that cute little ward on the Raptor camp there as well. Pretty understandable that Crown will help Ambition out.
So we're waiting to see. No wards put down by Omti or Ixu. They have perfect vision of where Ambition is at, though.
Not sure whether they saw Cuvée moving up towards the top, but they'll assume that he's hanging around as now, I believe, a couple of harpoons are going to get thrown into that Brambleback. That's where Omti's going to start. And that is very early entry.
Wants to have the cooldown back up for lane. Yeah. Kuzan does take away.
Oh, that was cute.
A bit of experience there.
Not going to be able to count that one out as easily, but Crown does at least know what has happened. There it is, bit of the healing back from the W onto Ambition as he hits that level 2. Move back towards Raptor Camp, finish that one off. Continue his parade through the jungle, but this is going to be different. We've been seeing Ambition on a lot of junglers and succeeding when he has the ability to add utility. Hasn't necessarily been that carry flavor. Now Crown taking a lot of damage. Just trade and chains. Crown's a little bit easier than Kuzan's is, but Kuzan's does a bit more damage.
Yeah, rune pages for mid laners run a lot less magic resist. You can see 34, and that includes also the base magic resist that was added in 7.11 or 7.10, I forget, but the base magic resist on all champions that was added recently.
Yeah.
Ambition is doing well statistically on Kha'Zix, but you're right, in the previous series it's been carry performances on champions like Rek'Sai that have defined games rather than farming on a champion like Kha'Zix and just making things happen in the late game. He's mid lane now, though.
Yeah, actually looking to try and get a lot of damage down onto Kuzan, and I like this. Just harass them out. He's got damage now, and that's how he's going to be able to pressure people out of lane.
And second Doran's Ring isn't as attractive a purchase as it was before. So 15 CS goes back, just buying... Just go for a very small incremental buy with the Dark Seal.
Yeah. And of course, I'm talking about it like he hasn't played much Kha'Zix. He's played a lot of Kha'Zix this season. And it's not for the same reasons that we give him accolades for his other champions, like the Gragas, that he was so excellent at.
And Gragas and Rek'Sai, just very different beasts, right? And
yeah.
Rek'Sai, especially recently, looked so good against Longzhu Gaming. It was robbed of an MVP. In that particular series, Cuvée took them all. the Gragas has been his pathing jungle of choice in the summer season.
Let's see what he's going to be able to get done as we're going to trade some Scryer's Blooms. Back is going to come in from Umti. This work from Samsung here down the bottom side, actually winning out on some trades early on, which is difficult for a Twitch Tarm lane. Especially into this one.
But I mean, they are being pushed in. Like, that is the cost, is that while they're doing some decent trading, it's at the cost of lane pressure and also the ability for Umti, if he was playing bottom side, to poke his head into the enemy jungle. But now Jin Air happy to play push and leave.
Yep. And you're right, Teddy does have decent CS advantage as the wave crashes forward, but that should be answered relatively well. Shadow Orbs from Kuzan's going to be frustrating for Crown to deal with as he can't move towards that minion wave very effectively. And we're going to have pushing lanes bottom and mid lane for Jin Air.
So I've decided with Jin Air winning with a perfect game in Game 1, we have to absolutely have the highest of expectations for them in Game 2.
Got it.
Maybe more than you would have without that perfect game. And to make this draft work, really want to see actually something that copies, or at least is emblematic of what we saw so often in spring season. The ward behind the bottom turret dive, or turret zone off first brick plays. The earlier, assuming it's around 10 to 15 minutes, or the earlier you can get side lane turrets, the faster you can rotate the LeBlanc into a side lane with teleport, especially if she has the Gunblade already completed, the better life is, really, for the side of Jin Air. If they can set the pace, they can have dual threats and just have Ashe and Zyra wave clearing in mid lane, that'll be a very clean game plan that Samsung might find it hard to deal with, especially if Twitch is in the mid lane trying to wave clear against Ashe. You don't have to respect the threat of ambush coming in to try and shut down the LeBlanc.
Cube actually.
Oh, this might be a kill.
Going for the solo. There's the flash. Ixu does have the scrap shield for the extra movement speed, but that's it. That's the solo kill. And Cube is off to a great start.
Yeah, Ixu just disrespecting the Renekton there. Cube having perfect understanding of the damage range. As we mentioned, the double MVP of Cube in the last series. First kill of the series for Samsung. Completely writes off any chance of there being a double perfect game. And, well, they're ready for another kill, Atlas.
Yeah, and they've got the ultimate available from Cube as well. Ixu says, well, I don't want to teleport to this lane, but that may mean that in between these turrets he could fall. But looks like could even be first brick going down. No, Samsung just going to back away, playing this one out. Controlled as possible. They have no idea where that Rek'Sai is.
Actually a really good top laner sense from Ixu not to teleport back. I think even some of our best top laners like Smeb have teleported back in scenarios just like that and been taken down. They had vision of the enemy red side jungle, but no other advanced vision, so they had no way to know where Kha'Zix was pathing, but smart read from Ixu means he will not die as 2 kills over to the Renekton in a lane that he's already favored in terms of trades. Could have been disaster for the top side of the map for Jin Air.
Well, Kuzan's going to not find the chain. Hop back and breaks the tether that Crown put down as well, but still gets a fair bit of damage in. The wave clear from this LeBlanc is working well. Okay, so Ixu makes his way back up, does have Ninja Tabi now into the phage that Cuvée put in.
This is a lot of damage already put on the outer bot lane turret. Don't even need a rotation or a turret dive at this point with how low they're getting the turret.
Snowflower just hanging out there on his own. Very aggressive moves as Bilgewater Cutlass is completed by Teddy. Ruler probably looking for room to back, but they do need to shove this wave out. And with staggered backs from the Jin Air bottom lane, it may mean that they do get the ability to do that. You're not exactly going to have Teddy sacrificing his health bar to hold a minion wave. Okay, and Ambition just farming things out. Umti more than happy to trade when it comes to that one. Wants to get his Tiamat as quickly as possible and should have it relatively soon as he's on power farm mode, clearing out his jungle wherever he can.
Really interesting buy. You see a cloth armor actually in the inventory of Ruler, which could have been boots, for example, for the same gold. Lets me know that they want the option, given they know there's going to be pretty relentless pushing from Teddy and Snowflower, to hang back, pop ambush, and go for an all-in, and not just have the Twitch too low in HP to be able to really be involved in a 2v2 or a 3v3. Teleport is up on the Renekton, who's looking pretty monstrous, so it is significant that he's gone for cloth armor in a spot where 90% of AD carries would have just picked up boots.
Yep. Now it is actually going to be evened out this series as well. Double teleport versus double teleport. So you could have a bit of a party towards that bottom side of the map. At the moment, Jin Air with a slight advantage in that regard, but Ixu getting pushed in over and over again. So that may not necessarily be able to utilize that. Does get the back. There's the ultimate actually baited out from Ruler, and he loses the trade, just using it to clear out the minion wave.
It's the equivalent of what we saw on the top side. Ixu dropping the equalizer to wave clear, Ruler dropping the ultimate to wave clear. Without even the Ash Arrow being used, still has it available. Ambition's really trying to take down Ixu. It's not going to happen.
He's being a real jerk. As now first brick is going to go over to Jin Air after all of that pressure did go down. Umpty just makes his presence known, and Teddy gets full solo gold from that structure. Does put Jin Air into the lead. This goes up with the fact that they have leads in other lanes as well as far as farm is concerned. Ruler is getting put so far behind, and Umpty looking for this Ocean Drake to start things off.
And the timer means that there's actually a trade up from Jin Air because there is no Rift Herald to be taken on the other side of the map. Doesn't spawn until 10 minutes. So controlling the top side of the map this early as the turrets go down is not ideal from a Samsung perspective. They can just send over Ash, who can shoot down the Hawk shot for temporary vision as Snowflower puts down the more permanent vision. They'll need to return to their wards, have the Kha'Zix return to top lane. Otherwise, just a trade victory for Jin Air Greenwings.
Yeah, really, really nicely done. Kuzan as well hitting a relative item spike. Actually love this particular point in the itemization of a LeBlanc, because you can shoot people with your gun with your auto attacks. And with the Sork shoes there as well, means that early penetration is available. Crown with his Nathan's Unholy Grail should be pretty happy, but if he's able to get on top of someone like Ruler, this LeBlanc will be doing decent damage.
And he's largely not building for trying to kill the mid lane. He is going to be building for the side lane pressure. Gunblade with the excellent extra burst and also sustain, clearing minion waves. Kuzan does visit bot lane, spotted already through a control ward, so...
Yeah, Ruler just relying on his ambush to mean that he will be safe.
Seem to be happy to just help the Rumble get a bit of CS and be fine, rather than necessarily look for any big advantages there. Didn't need to be in the mid lane, so happy to go for a walk.
Didn't want to overshove things, and despite the first blood advantage going to Samsung, it is still a lead, even if the turrets were traded for Jin Air. Kuzan getting a bit of work done as well in this mid lane, and we've seen this happen multiple times before with teams just foregoing any sort of river control, but it wasn't teams like Samsung that were falling into that trap. And it looks like Umpty should be able to take down this Rift Herald as well as that Dragon.
And we should talk about playbooks, because we've had a couple of iterations of how games are played, as Ixu once again knows his role. Just going to drop down Equalizer and leave. Doesn't really matter that Ixu is largely being denied CS, because he's only 7 CS behind. But what I want to discuss is that, consider that Jin Air, we no longer have just the 8-minute auto swap to top lane, right? Where we saw previously with no turrets down, they would swap to try to get Rift Herald control on both sides. What we saw now was that Jin Air played around where they were strong on the bot side when they would trade up in terms of neutrals. They took down the Ocean Drake for free. There was no answering objective for Samsung to pick up. Then they traded up, and now that they have control over top side with multiple members there and their jungler on the top side, they got another neutral buff that hadn't spawned when Samsung had the advantage there. So in 2 ways, Jin Air, without having to fight, ended up with a considerable advantage. And now the fight...
Yeah, arrow's going to come down. Fantastic consume. The Devour onto Ruler is going to mean that arrow meant naught. Unfortunate, because that was a beautiful arrow from Teddy.
There's no coincidence that Jin Air was in the right side of the map to get the most benefit twice in a row. That is just a smart use of your resources. And a return to the Jin Air of 3 weeks ago, where we were impressed with how they could make plays like this and heads-up plays that get them more advantages that aren't necessarily well-drilled plays from scripts.
Yep. And also, it's a return to form for a lot of the star players on the side of Jin Air as well. I mean, we mentioned the fact that Teddy gets a lot of the team's gold. Right now, he's ahead by a massive margin. Over 20 CS over Ruler. Does have his Blade of the Ruin King completed. Kuzan playing very well on a champion that he has seen some success on, although only 1 out of the 3 games that he's played on this LeBlanc have been wins.
Kuzan needs to be careful here.
Not going to get snared. As now Jin Air going to all file in and try and take down the last remaining outer turret.
So picking up minion waves that are pushing into him. Renekton couldn't appear there, so Renekton does kind of have to roam. Goes for a walk down. Chasing Ruler. Was spotted with the Tremor Sensors.
Yeah. You got Jin Air just trying to own the bottom side of the jungle as far as vision. Crown and Kuzan just trading blows here in the mid lane. Both of them still about as healthy as one another. Oh, Empty's hit the Dream as well. He can clear out minions so fast. As can Crown, by the looks. Blue buff is going to be going over to Kuzan. We'll see whether he goes back to base and how far into that Gunblade he can purchase. Seen a few different schools of thought when it comes to that Gunblade overseas. But still pretty keen on it, is Kuzan.
I mean, there was that phase where people would go Proto Belt early, and then people just build the Revolver and go for other items like Morel and Omicron, but Gunblade seems to be sticking as the build here, unless you're forced to go something like a Banshee Veil early in a tough matchup.
Yeah, Arrow's going to fly forward. It's paired. Oh my goodness, so close to killing. He gets it. Yeah, the tether. It remains even in the belly of the Tahm Kench. And now the Rift Herald moves forward, and we're going to be able to take down this turret as well. Jin Air get a pick and throw that one down. It's answered by Ruler, but what more can Jin Air gain here in the mid lane? Another charge is what they want. This Cuvée is just going to stand and tank it up.
They'll get some free shopping trips just before a Drake spawn, so not something massive, but still probably something that's going to be very relevant.
Continuing to move up, though, as far as advantages are concerned, though, Papa Smithy.
LeBlanc goes and gets the completion on her item there. The Hextech Gunblade will be available to play the side lane. One item Power Spike available for the LeBlanc as well now. Getting on plenty of gold is Crown. It's going to be probably building a Neosludge Rod towards a Death Cap, or maybe even the completed Ardent Sensor, given how cheap the item is. But it will mean that Jin Air will be freshly shopped 10 seconds before the Drake spawns, and a Cloud Drake to join their ocean may not be the mountains and infernals of the first series, but still reward for excellent macro play in the first 15 minutes.
Yeah, we also know that Jin Air love to take this game late, and that's going to be boosting their Elder Dragons for the end of the game as well. So you may look at it as trivial dragons. I look at it as you move a bit faster and make a bigger guy at the end of the game.
Honestly, my biggest hope for Jin Air is they put pay to that meme, that it no longer has to be something about Jin Air, because for the majority of summer season, you can't really call the Jin Air the team who was clueless in the mid-game and just watched as other teams you know, got back or got their scaling on. You can't just pick 5 scaling champs against Jin Air and win. There has been games where they've fallen back into that game plan. But if Jin Air can continue to evolve and no longer be a meme team around that, I think that'll be really big for them moving forward, because clearly they have more to them than just late game team fight.
Yeah. The thing that happened was that in the promotion tournament, it wasn't that they take everything to late game, play really slow and lose. It was take everything to late game, play slow and win. And now it's win in the mid game and make good transitionary decisions in order to get themselves into positions where they can just take over a game. And that's exactly what they did in game 1. It's what they're looking to try and do in game number 2. Although it is more difficult. We don't have the same level of advantage they picked up earlier on.
Alice, the longest average game time in the LCK is 39 minutes. That's the Freak of Freaks. The shortest average game time is KT Rolster at 35 minutes. Jin Air averaged 35.2. They are the second fastest team in summer season, and that's even with a recent series where they did return to their roots and play a lot slower. So it still will take time. It still will take a season, maybe a season and a half. But in a year's time, maybe they will finally shed the only take it to late image that they've had for the best part of 3 years.
Yeah. And it sort of went from it not necessarily even being a bad thing, because they did look good when they took things late. They took things late with early game compositions and still managed to out-team fight some teams, but was against different caliber opponents. Last game was certainly not taking things late. That was just systematic destruction of Samsung. Now with a slight advantage, looking to try and continue that one as well. And it doesn't feel like in the draft Samsung got all of those amazing picks. The first pick, Karma, is definitely good. Crown has been playing it a lot this season. It is, in fact, his most played.
And it's seen as a nullifying pick into the LeBlanc as well, because, you know, Faker showed it in the final of the LCK Spring. You take Karma with teleport, you run around, you don't get killed by LeBlanc, and you wave clear in their face and negate the side push pressure. So LeBlanc can, with Snowball, have some kill pressure, but certainly not right now at just Hextech Gunblade and the Blasting Wand.
Well, He's looking for Ambition. He's going to wander through. He's going to be safe for the moment, and Vision is just being fought over right now. Kuzan splitting up towards the top side, and it's going to be answered by Crown. Splits elsewhere is going to be Ixu versus Juve, as we've seen earlier on. We'll see whether the 3v3 in the mid lane is going to work out effectually for Jin Air or for Samsung. You can see the wave clear for both of these players is most certainly ample to stop any turret damage going down.
It's no coincidence also that Kuzan has a lot less ward coverage on the side he's pushing in because he's a LeBlanc with flash up compared to where the rest of the team is playing, which is the bottom side of the map, where they need to be a lot more careful with their movements. They also have the Tremor Sense from Umti to spot the likes of Core JJ out.
Yep, a lot of information gained. Now they're just going to move themselves over here. Okay, the ambush is set up from Ruler, but can he actually find anything? No, he's going to have to just help clear out
look at the
wave.
combat list. What does it even look like for them to initiate, really? They don't have long-range initiation. Kha'Zix with the Void Spikes, about all they have in terms of long-range AoE CC. Umti gets turned on by Ambitious. Level 11. Umti might just die here.
Yeah, Equalizer does come down. They were sort of trying to bait here as the teleport is going to be cancelled. Kuzan says,
LeBlanc's just top lane.
Yeah. Let me clear this one out. Numti utilizes his flash. He's going to be able to get back home. Unfortunately, Void Rush being global is a thing of the past. So we'll actually have to walk back, or slither back, or tunnel back.
Hasn't left just yet. Does have a bit of that health regen from the
eating up the Fury.
As you say. It's lower now after the rework. More damage orientated than the health regen global tank she was before. Just gonna take the blue, I guess. No. Yep. Okay.
All right.
Kuzan wasn't gonna get there anytime soon.
Did Kuzan take the? No, he didn't.
No, it's just spawning now.
Yeah. 30 seconds away, something like that. Shatteral, pretty fun to watch clear out a minion wave. Ardent Sensor done for Crown there in the mid lane. We've got what looks like a Void Staff as item number 2 for Kuzan to keep himself relevant through the magic resist. It's going to be built by Samsung.
And it's also a build for late. Now, I was speaking earlier about...
it looks like a Rabbidan's Death Cap, potentially.
That will be the biggest wave clear build, as you have the Gunblade for sustain off the wave and also the Death Cap try and power through. A couple of different schools of thought. You can also crib the Rumble build, which was basically if you have a magic resist stacking tank next to you, you go Leandri's into the Void Staff just to be able to pressure in lane. So going that against the Athene's Karma wouldn't be the worst idea, but the Death Cap is saying, well, I can push and also I can delete lanes.
Yeah, which is fun. Okay, so Raw looking for Teddy potentially as Ixu is off to the side, Equalizer in hand. Teddy looks alone, but everyone's flanking him. Teleport not up from Kuzan yet, though, so this could be a man advantage opportunity as Ruler's going to jump out, but immediately turned on. Arrow comes in, and there's the Devour. So still going to be able to get relevant damage onto the Twitch.
A real health lead, though. Teddy used a lot. They're going to use Equalizer on Ruler.
Yeah, and that's everything being thrown down. The heal was used as well as the Inspire, and in goes Juve. Dominus has been popped. Teddy, great position over to the side, and massive knockups. Juve's gonna fall down, and in goes Kuzan. He's been exhausted, but he gets the kill that he was looking for. Snaps back to the distortion. Now Umti, he tanks the damage, but he doesn't care. Two massive carries from Samsung have been eliminated. Jin Air now continuing to push forward.
Smart of Jin Air, they don't want to go for Baron because they have the low health bar on Umti and no way to get back in, so try to get the run on mid lane. Great play from Teddy to flash over. His team fighting is still as strong when he doesn't get crushed in lane. When they pick supports for him in lane, I actually really love the return of the Zyra because they kept trying to run disengaged supports, lost lane, and then Teddy lost his luster. Couldn't be the team fight carry when he was behind in gold. This time has the gold. Ambition doing his best to steal this under the nose. We'll get it.
Yeah, he's going to leap his way out as well. So, all right, Consolation, Infernal Drake. Going over the side of Samsung.
So we're going to see the replay. Rulers opening up on Twitch reminds me of the players that started playing Rumble this year, Equalizers. You know, it's a kind of positioning knowledge thing that is pretty specific to Twitch. And when you make a mistake, often the cost is massive. In this case, he has to use heal. They have to invest everything on him. And then Teddy, flashing over the wall, can turn onto Juve, and Juve is exposed. They have to use the Devour onto Twitch again. Didn't want him to die in the turnaround, but Kuzan gets in the backline. They get 2 for 0. Clean stuff from Jin Air. if you turn the nameplates around, I would have thought that that Jin Air was Samsung Galaxy with just how clean Jin Air are playing.
This is an incredible performance from Jin Air.
Relative to their opponent, it's not like Samsung is playing shocking, it's just that Jin Air is playing way better.
Yeah. They have been such a good-feeling team this season, Papa Smithy. Watching Jin Air and their improvements that they've made, I mean, it was unfortunate watching the Afrika Freak series because it felt like, oh, are they deteriorating to, you know, previous problems? But no, having this kind of a performance, and even if Samsung miraculously comes back and wins this game and then wins game 3 or something like that, even if that does happen, it doesn't matter because this series of play shows that they're not tilting right now.
You could write a sports documentary, or there has been many sports documentaries written about Umti's story, right? Because he started as a hyped rookie, came in, did well at the start, really lost his shine, you know, was very clearly emotionally affected by all the losses Jin Air piled on in spring season.
Yeah.
After games, Teddy and Umti looked devastated because this was new to them. They weren't used to losing like some of their teammates had been over the course of time. But then to come back as strongly as he did first in the promotion tournament, because that was already asking a lot, come back with a chance of relegation for a proud org like Jin Air and play in a relegation tournament, came in, played great, and now in summer season, everyone's banding together. You can see a lot of bromance occurring between the players, and they're playing like a team and playing at an individual and a team level way above what we saw in spring.
Absolutely, and it feels like that performance that MVP were able to put out when they surged to 4th place at the end of the first season, where it was they played so well together. This Jin Air roster, though, has the star power in order to make things even better as well, because MVP did it with not necessarily that big star, unless you count Max as, you know, the wonder of all picks possible on the bottom side of the map. His ambition has to get out of the way of Kuzan. That Shatter Orb, lots of damage. As Arrow's going to fly through, Crown, good knowledge. Gets himself over to the side. I believe that Scrying Orb probably is a little bit of a tell.
No mountains means that Jin Air going to play it pretty careful and measured around Baron. They don't have fantastic Baron damage, so what's been working for them so far has been the sieging game.
But he's at least going to get pinged out. All of the vision removed from Samsung as Ambition gets his health back, moves back towards a potential team fight, but it's lit up on the top side of Samsung's jungle. Jin Air, not a whole lot of surprises going down.
Umti knows his role again. Just going to be happy to set up around around Teddy, but at a much faster clip than any previous Night's Vow. Second item Night's Vow.
This is adorable. Kuzan just utilizing the fact that they'd assume there's no one there because there's a ward being denied vision.
Plop.
Yep. Puts his way back in. There's Teddy clearing out this minion wave. This outer turret has stayed up for a long time, and of course inner is missing. Side of Samsung opening up the map so far for Jin Air. Has been a slower period of play though. Pressure needs to continue going down because you can see Samsung, it was about a 4,000 gold lead. They have now clawed back after picking up some farm across this map.
No guarantees yet for Jin Air in Game 2, but so far no mistakes, and it's not like they have taken their foot off the accelerator. They just need to get harder objectives than the outer ring of turrets. Drake spawning in a minute 30 is another Infernal, so there will definitely be flare points around both Baron and Drake to fight around.
Yep. This Ruler once again. Ambush has been popped.
Dash arrow available.
Teddy comes in, throws down the volley. Jin Air position themselves nicely. Cuvee thinking about some sort of engage as Teddy getting aggressed on Snowflower as well. He's going to be a target as the arrow comes in. Yeah, Cuvee has to flash himself out as Kuzan just flashes in, gets out with a distortion, and the Twitch not going to be a problem anymore. Teddy going nuts, and look at the health bars of Samsung. They're getting obliterated. Ixu wants to burn down Cuvee, and Teddy grabs another one. The bottom lane has been taken out, and Samsung Galaxy wiped the floor off by Jin Air Greenwings.
Superior team fighting. Kuzan back on one of his old legacy picks. The LeBlanc is playing it in team fights to a T. It's not even about the split push. They turn on to Baron. Ambition was low. Had to go pick up a cam to get even a bit of health back. No chance in hell of getting on to this Baron. Baron over to the side of Jin Air Greenwings, and they're a couple of team fights away from a famous victory. Go back to the replay. They try to turn on to Snowflower. That actually is the start of this fight. Teddy falls low. Equalizer was smart. It denied the position, no more damage from Ruler, and then it feels like a replay of the previous fight because Cuvée, he's not tanky enough. Oh. No one is tanky enough. Kuzan, so smooth, even through exhaust,
he's
knowing his
rats
damage
and taking names, man.
Umti dives in with the new Void Rush, and there's no one. Cuvée cannot tank Teddy, and that has been the case of going for this very early Knight's Vow. I mean, Cinderhulk, Tiamat, they're kind of intermediate items. His first real item is the Knight's Vow. It's keeping Teddy healthy on a champion like Ashe, who Ashe and Varus are these champs who often are chased out of fights by just a bit of damage early and can't be a factor. Having the Knight's Vow has allowed him to be just that much more aggressive with his positioning. And now Ambition looking to, against the tide of the game, just steal away an Infernal Drake, which lets you know where the game is at when that's really the best use of his time.
Yeah, that's just going to be smited, dragged out of the pit, and it's all going to be for Jin Air. As there's the arrow landing onto Ambition. He has to leap himself out of the way. Ruler takes half of his health bar with just the Band-Aid on the ground. Beautifully done. That analogy doesn't necessarily work very well.
Did end up being the Void Staff after all, so the LeBlanc was going to focus on the side lane, but now has the Death Cap constituent parts ready again. Karma's not really interested in dealing with this, so it'll be an inner turret going down.
Auto attack damage. Pretty silly when you got that level of ability power as well, and a bit of AD on top of it.
Oh, live. Still going to be live, but falling lower and lower. Still love the way Jin Air have set up. This is a great setup to be cribbed for other regions. If you have someone like a LeBlanc who has so many safe escapes, you don't need to put the vision around the split pusher. Invest all the vision around the Ashe, around the members on the bot side. The four have all the vision, and that's why they're so safe.
Yeah, and then you've also got the Rek'Sai there who just tunnels under the ground, and you're never going to be surprised by any approach towards his inner turret. That was as free as you can get. Now it's 1-6. Remember, that one kill was a solo kill by Cuvée, who's now looking to get solo killed by Kuzan, who's doing so much damage. The Dominus has to be popped.
That's a big cooldown to take out anyway.
His LeBlanc looks so deadly.
Threading the skills like it's nothing. Ruler's going to try opening up again. This hasn't worked the last two times.
Ambition's not even there as well, and the inhibitor turret will be in trouble.
They found him with the Harpoon.
Okay, they are at least able to clear out a lot of these creeps, but look at this. Kuzan so effortlessly able to keep his distance against Cuvée. This is where the problems lie. We've got mid lane creep wave that has equalized in the middle of the map completely.
And now we can smile about Kuzan getting closer to filling his potential, because before Teddy, Jin Air's star was Kuzan. The roster refresh was supposed to be built around Kuzan being a star mid laner, a top 5 mid laner for a lot of 2015 and 2016, fell away this year. But if he also can draw the same level of praise, or even close to the same level of praise that his AD carry does, then Jin Air do have 2 carry threats. And we're getting dangerously close to getting excited about Jin Air Greenwings.
Oh, do we dare?
It's a relative excitement. They're not going to win Worlds, but they might attend Worlds.
They may. Don't know. Things still up in the air as far as those standings are concerned. All sorts of things can happen. Seemed like MVP were able to make it to the top 4, and to Rift Rivals, of course. As Ruler is going to throw out the ultimate. Snowball getting taken down solo, and that's the bottom lane already removed. Samsung looking to start their way back into this game. 7,500 gold behind means that it could be difficult, but there goes the 3rd kill. This is going to stymie the offensive that Jin Air have been putting on.
Yeah, this time Ruler, 3rd time's lucky, opens up, and although Kuzan had broken the base in the top side, that time means they won't break the base themselves, Samsung, but it's a bit of an invitation for them to take some turrets, potentially open up the map, put down some vision. What was looking like it might just be the 2-0. Samsung Galaxy looking to make a fight out of it after Jin Air had run the past 25 minutes.
Yeah, now looking to try and take down this inner turret. They're not going to be able to get it as Kuzan throws out the chains, lands on Core JJ, but he's able to get himself out. Look at this. There have been a lot of items picked up. Teddy grabs himself a Guardian Angel. There's a Rabadon's Death Cap as well as a Phoenix Codex for Kuzan, and let's see how this happens.
Heading onto the Nexus opens you up to being turned on. This is the part where everyone needs to walk up. The Ashe arrow goes wide, and the map is never narrower as you enter into the inhibitor turret. So that was the time they lined up. Nice use of the Abyssal Voyage to clean off Ixu as well. important gold goes down to Samsung Galaxy. Still find themselves in a 6,000 gold disadvantage. Jin Air, as you say, gets some important item purchases. What was completely one-way traffic, finally, we see signs of life from Samsung. Very important for them as well.
Yeah. Have to remember, those item timings were because they spent so long clearing out turrets and minion waves and putting the pressure onto Samsung, so they had a lot of money in their back pockets. Could be a more difficult fight for Samsung on even footing next time around. But at least Ruler's hit 3 items. So Twitch, with 3 items, needs to be getting killed by the LeBlanc every single time. Otherwise, he will most likely win a team fight.
Easier said than done, obviously, against a Tahm Kench with Exhaust, who has all his summoners up, and Ruler, his Vash is down, so that's probably the one window that Kuzan has to play around.
Crown's going to get himself a blue buff against the Tide of play as well, so this is nice. Now Ixu moving towards the bottom side, and that open inhibitor is still alive.
Setting up around, it's not easy. It's actually, you could think, okay, why is Kuzan not top lane? He'd done all the work to get the inhibitor turret down, but you want to draw people away from the Baron area as it's going to spawn in 30 seconds, so Kuzan's trying to get 2 or 3 people to try and come and shut him down as he tries to get a second inhibitor turret in the bot, and that'll be the window for the rest of Jin Air to turn onto the Baron.
Well, Opti waiting in the wings right now.
Knows where Ruler was.
Yeah. They need to be very, very careful of this Twitch. If you can open up with good positioning, Spray and Pray, of course, is available now. Jin Air is certainly not out of the woods in any sense of the term.
They have one ward that is out of the range of the control ward on Baron, but giving them not necessarily complete, but a pretty good idea that Jin Air is not on Baron. So for now, that's really allowing them to be a bit more up with their play rather than having to face check and potentially get popped.
Getting themselves in there. Okay,
they want the Tahm Kench.
Yeah, they're going to try and grab him. Good knockup from the Stranglethorns, but the Tahm Kench
Umti
is still alive. Umti in trouble, but he's doing so much work. Ruler once again going to fall down, but Teddy goes down to his Guardian Angel, not doing damage right now, and Kuzan pops his way out. Yeah, Umti's in so much trouble. Cube trying to be a hero. Snowflower is going to fall. That is the double kill, and it's 1 for 2. Ruler, a big deal as far as Samsung, and Teddy now has to kite. Good kiting, actually, to start things off.
Kuzan.
Because now Ixu's looking to get himself in there. Kuzan just immediately stunned, pops his way back out.
Turned on.
And that could be a big problem. Teddy trying to be a hero, but Ambition makes his way back in. And the Ashe can't do anything. This could mean Baron for Samsung.
Really good team fighting from them. They'll consider it Atlas. They start walking up, including Vision around it. Abyssal Voyage is down. Teleport is down. It will not mean Baron, but Samsung against the gold lead win another fight. We're going to see the replay. They use everything onto the Tahm Kench. Don't get the instant pop on him. And while it's a feel-good story to have Ruler be the first person to die in the fight, it's at the cost of all of the health bars on Teddy, Ixu, and Umti. Sure, the Teddy can come back, but that's Guardian Angel down. And Cuvée runs in, and he's a one-man army because it's not the health bars on Jin Air to actually win the fight from there.
Yeah, slight overextension to try and get that 1 kill. But like you said, now that the kills are even, the gold is not. 5,000 still is Jin Air's lead. They can grab some control of this Baron area after Samsung was able to wrestle that back. The team fight win.
Elder Dragon is spawned. They know all the setup from Samsung is around Baron, so let's see how what Jin Air makes of this game. They have so many different things they can attack. An open inhibitor, contesting Baron Vision, and trying to take down an Elder Dragon. A lot of options exist for Jin Air. What they choose here is going to be another one of those question marks when we try to evaluate how good a team Jin Air is. Sure, Game 1, excellent. Start of Game 2, excellent. But if they lose from how far ahead they were in Game 2, you do have to start revising down your expectations.
Teddy going to hop back to base. We'll see what he picks up. He's going to finalize his build. In fact, that is every single one of them items picked up. Sitting on 6. Still wants his Guardian Angel back, but half of the cooldown has been expended. Kuzan's going to be here now. Samsung putting themselves in a great position to be Stranglethorn. Honestly, is now Ruler. He's going to open up. He's looking for Snowflower, but there's the equalizer. Brilliant placement. Snowflower, oh, is it going to be enough to take him down? The poison, the last tick. And Ruler's going to be able to get gifted the kill. Now, Ruler sets up. Lots of lifesteal, and he's going to be A-OK here. Kuzan, is he going to be able to get this one done? Oh, Ambition looking for it.
Ruler being able to lifesteal him back to free, himself back up to full is not a trivial thing. Does continue to mean that Baron is an objective. They'll back away though. Flower the only casualty. But each of these skirmishes, each of these little team fights has been advantage Samsung. And now the items are really starting to pile up on Ruler.
Oh yeah. Oh, Kuzan as well in trouble as to distort his way out. Doesn't have to use his flash, which is important. And Snowflower is going to be back up. Has his ignite, but not his flash. Jinna have neglected their minion waves. Samsung is going to move back towards this Baron. Teleport comes in. Jinna know exactly what's going on. We're going to have another go at this team fight. There's the Inspire, but the shield will wear off.
Equalizer not available. Spray and Pray about to be available.
Yeah, you can see Kuzan testing the waters.
No flash onto Teddy, whereas flash is on Ruler. That could be so important, but getting access to Teddy is not an easy thing for Samsung.
Now just going to move their way back. They're not too worried about starting this Baron, stopping it. They got a teleport. That is what they wanted. They have almost 2 available for themselves as Crown's up and Cuvées is going to be up in a few seconds.
More completed onto the side of Ruler before he goes for his second Zeal item. More safety from Kuzan, who was the one to pop him in those big fights.
Yeah. Being said, he also has more items. The Zhonya's Hourglass completed, as well as his Void Staff, plus...
And it's starting Baron.
Okay, Snowflower's going to stop Ambition from making it in there, as Kuzan looking to try and stop him. As Jinna, they're also going to peel away.
Cuvée thinks of bouncing himself into the team.
Oh, right into the middle there as well. Immediately removes Snowflower, but he got the Strangled Thorns in there. Good devour from Core JJ as the arrow flies its way forward. Ruler over the edge, great positioning, and Umpty, he can't get the kill. That is going to be the double for Teddy, though. He's going nuts. Crown, he's in trouble. The big crit's coming forward as Cuvée is going to be taken out. Teddy is taking names, and that is going to be the 3-for-2 advantage Jinna.
This time Teddy able to free hit like Ruler was in previous fights. They're teleporting in. They already have the inhibitor turret down. This is going to be at minimum inhibitor Jinna.
And Ruler cannot kill both Kuzan and Teddy from full health, so that inhibitor goes down immediately. Wow. Can they do this against the wave clear available from Crown and Ruler? I don't know.
You think not. This is going to be very difficult. I don't think Jinna can realistically do more than just one Nexus turret. Maybe not even that.
Teddy must feel like a god right now. He's going for it. They get a lot of damage.
There's
a flash forward. They look for Ruler. They will kill him. As Crown's in trouble as well.
Umpty's going to die.
Yeah, and if he does, it could be a big problem. Kill the turret before it kills him. And they do manage to get that one down.
What does this mean, though? Because Umpty cannot just back and ult back to the Baron. It's no longer the way with the Rek'Sai. She's so low, but they're trying to brute force their way onto Baron. This is damn risky if they do it. You will see Umpty is going to back, you think.
Okay, no, just going to try and take away this Rift Scuttler. Does at least get a bit of rage for it.
They're trying to feign that they went for Baron, get another pick when they come through. But without Ruler, they're so much safer in their positioning, understandably. Jinna still, they're going to roll the dice. They're going to start the Baron. Ambition's mid lane. They should take this. They got a lot of Baron damage.
All too easy in Jinna. They waited just long enough. That is going to be that. Baron falls to their favor one more time, and it's 8,000 gold now the lead.
And yet, it still could be Samsung Galaxy.
Oh, it does not feel like a victory just yet. Snowflower, of course, doesn't. He feels too much pain from all of these buttons that his opponents are doing. Okay, so Jinna just going to go back to base, finish off these item builds. I believe we've got a cool little hat coming in for Ixu very soon. So that's Bloodthirster from Teddy.
Very different choice. 6-item build, does no longer have boots. Trying to be a siege turret, basically. It's in Prey. Flash in with those big W and Q stacking with Hurricane plays. This could definitely be the way here from Teddy, but he's going to have to be in position. He doesn't have a Devour like his opposite number does. They don't know where Samsung is, Jinna.
Yeah, well, Kuzan could actually be picked off here. There's the distortion, but Crown doesn't quite catch him with the Mantra Q. They're given away. So one Nexus turret is actually a big deal because it means someone needs to be back defending these super creep waves heading in because of that dead inhibitor. Cuvée will have to teleport in at the opportune moment for a fight if they want to make something happen. And look at this. Kuzan is just on a one-man mission. I need to see what he can do. He's going to wait, possibly try and disrupt some sort of teleport plays. Jin Air are just keeping Samsung interested.
Certainly interested, Atlas, but cut the air with a knife. Things are so close here between Jin Air and Samsung. Elder Dragon's still pretty healthy. Positioning so important. Ashao just onto the Tom Kench. Now that's down. That's a cooldown wasted.
They're looking like they're trying to buy time as Kuzan's just trying to win the game. Ambition's dead! And that is, oh well, down to his Guardian Angel anyway. That should spell.
LeBlanc's going to kill Cuvée or just take free autos on the top, and they get Elder.
Yeah, and they're going to just try and take the Nexus as Jin Air are looking to 2-0 Samsung. They get the kill on the Crocodile, and they take down the Nexus. Jin Air 2-0 over our #1 team in the league.
What a way to snap their low form run and also send themselves into the break. Big high fives from the Jin Air coaching staff. A famous victory. Previously the top team in the LCK are taken out by Jin Air Greenwings of all teams. Game 1, perfect game. Game 2, it wasn't as clean, but they knew how to win. Largely made the right decisions, and even some late game team fighting heroics from the side of Ruler weren't enough. Largely, they were the better team in Game 2, and Game 1 also was completely written by Jin Air Greenwings, so what a victory for them, and the team that, like you say, suddenly we were like, oh, maybe they're lower than Afrika, maybe they aren't going to be making it to the top 5, maybe they have to be confident and comfortable with just not being in the relegation spots, breathes new life into their season.
Absolutely amazing, and I'm so glad that we got to see both of these games as well. The first one, perfect game. If you're winning, it's theoretically easy to keep winning. Game number 2, they lost first blood. There were definite things that were going to go awry if they were going to start fights the wrong way around. The Twitch did manage to get big. It was on relatively even footing throughout the mid to early late game. It wasn't until they were able to get that first Baron, use the Rek'Sai so expertly, to have the Tremor Sense, to make sure that they got all of the rings of turrets and get that 8,000 gold lead, but it still never felt like it was a shutout game like Game 1.
And kind of fascinating that 3 out of 4 teams from Korea will go to Rift Rivals on a loss.
Yeah.
We saw KT lose their last game.
SKT still could.
SKT versus MVP means that one of them has to lose, and thus 3 out of 4 will go in with a loss guaranteed. This is Kuzan at 6 items. Cuvée, there's nothing he can do in this scenario. Doesn't die. This allows him to turn onto the Nexus. Rumble coming in was the guarantee. Kuzan played fantastically on the LeBlanc this game, all things considered. And that means Jin Air. Wow, what a result for them. Feels like the LCK. There are times when we thought we knew everything, when Samsung, SKT, and KT only had a single match loss. SKT still only have that single match loss, but in the second round robin, the first fire has been started as Jin Air take down the side of Samsung.
And things are starting to get so much closer as well. Rock's taking down KT. Another success story for a team more in the middle of the pack, trying to separate themselves from that bottom rung. So surges could be happening here, Papa.
And it's even fun to separate the 280 carries, because Game 1, what happened? Teddy had everything banned against him, jumped on Kalista for the first time this season.
Well, second time this season after a loss.
And looked great. On this side, Ruler had everything taken away, had to default to the Twitch, had some good moments, got crushed in lane, and started the global snowball that was the very early 3 turrets. And while he pulled on plenty of damage, it was a 2-man show from the side of Jin Air Greenwings, and even a Rumble thrown in as well, higher than anyone else other than Ruler on the side of Samsung Galaxy. The MVP, you'd have to think it'll be Kuzan.
Just a godly performance on that LeBlanc, able to navigate the laning phase beautifully against a Karma, which can nullify and actually make you feel like you're relatively useless, but it didn't matter. Like all of the mid-game fights, it was just dead Twitches.
And there's definitely been times where Kuzan plays meta champs and you're like, well, it doesn't feel like the same as Crown's version of that champion or other players. It felt like he was on a lower ebb. But LeBlanc has always been a pick for him. It's not necessarily a meta pick, but it's a pick that can be played. And as a pocket pick for Kuzan specifically, who has the Vladimir, who has the Lissandra, he also has the LeBlanc, and his ability to conceptualize the fights, largely always trivialize Ruler, and just make it look so damn smooth as he did it with the flash. Beautifully done from Kuzan this game. He was the game breaker, but he had a lot of friends as well.
He did, and Teddy, especially this fight, actually played expertly, making sure that he was always chasing after the kills where he needed to. And look at this disengage for a Renekton. isn't a very much better one, but Snowflower's Stranglethorns is brilliant. Both of these games have been stories about both sides of Jin Air. Every single player has been playing much better than they were, especially in the series against the Afrika Freaks. And Teddy, this was all about him. The crits, the movement, away from the Ruthless Predator from Cuvée, just got himself kited, and their decision-making with what to do. Getting this Nexus turret was influential, because that allowed them to have this fight, get one pick, and then the game was over.
And then Cuvée, deck was stacked against him here. Nothing he could do, only a single magic resist item. Popped his ultimate. Wasn't a backdoor play, this was Jin Air being smart. The decision to throw him in there as the 4v4 was happening around the Elder Dragon. Jin Air got everything. Jin Air ended the game. Jin Air on this day, July 1st, pick up a famous victory over Samsung Galaxy.
Absolutely incredible. And this was a Samsung who were coming off victories. It was BBQ going down 2-0, 2-1 on Jin Air Greenwings earlier on, and then Longzhu 2-1. And we are going to go to the MVP interview. So Joel, take it away.
Thank you very much, guys. This is Joel with your last interview translations of the day, and we are here with Jin Air Greenwings, who surprisingly picked up a 2-0 victory against Samsung. And we are here with today's MVPs, Umti and Kuzan, for the interview. Umti, you're back on the interview stage again. Yeah, Samsung was on the run as first place, but we felt the urge that we wanted to pull them down from the charts. And surprisingly, Kuzan, it's his first MVP of the season. Aren't you supposed to be the ace of the team? Yeah, it's true, but how does it feel right now, getting the MVP? I think it's very, very honoring thing that I get to do this interview today. And of course, something with Rek'Sai was something that we had a lot of questions about. And we had a lot of experiences with you with the Rek'Sai that was, you know, with the previous change that we've seen, but with the recent changes that I saw, what's the difference? Yeah, I feel like with me practicing Rek'Sai, I feel like there's very little ways to really defeat the Rek'Sai, especially with the recent changes. And of course, you know, with the jungling and also with the team fight contributions that it can make, it's such a viable contribution to the team. Do you consider it higher than Lee Sin? Well, for something like Elise, for example, it's a little bit of a gamble because it's a very risky thing where... And I think with Lee Sin, the biggest risk is at level 6 when you don't get the ultimate down right. It just really snowballs against you. And Kuzan with you as well in the first game and the second game. We saw that the ban pick phase was a little bit understated that Karma got the most priority. Yeah, Karma is very good for the laning phase and also with the team fight contributions that it can make, so it's just a very safe pick to go with when you're going with it blind. And it's good for blind picks as well. And Jin Air showed a very different side to the team today going up against today's series, and I'm sure the macro play had a big part of it. And was that a strategy going into today's series? Yeah, I feel like the macro game is a bit of a statement where during the Afrika series that we didn't do as well. We wanted to improve on those aspects that we missed out on. In the first game, you guys had a lot of bans going against the ADC and you guys ended up with Kalista. Yeah, I think with Teddy being so talented on the Kalista, I think the Samsung squad really felt the need to really ban it, but I feel like with any other picks that Teddy can pull out, he's good with anything, so we trust that guy to be performing at the highest level all the time. We have a video highlight of some of the plays they showed in Game 1. And this might have been the beginning of the snowball you guys showed. Yeah, we saw Lee Sin around the area, so we expected them to be there, but with the ultimate available, I really felt the urge to go in. Yeah, even with here, it was predicted that Lee Sin would go back up, so he wouldn't be there in time if I was able to gank. I think is so smart with the way he thinks through these things. So good job, guy. And we want to move on to game 2, where you got the MVP with the LeBlanc. And it seems like LeBlanc is really much of a pocket pick for you, Kuzan. It's one of my most widely used pick. And just, regardless of whether it's in meta or not, I just like playing it. And a lot of people do say that Kuzan's LeBlanc is something else, where it's very different. I don't see myself different playing the LeBlanc to other players. But if I had to say something, whenever I do pick up the LeBlanc with the mobility that it has, it just allows it to be more free to make a little bit of variety of moves. Do you remember the last scene of that game? And this was the essential backdoor leading up to the last play of the game. What was the mindset coming into this play? Yeah, I feel like, if I did all my skill shots right, there was no way that Renekton could have defended against me. So, getting all the right skill shots at each time, there was no way that Renekton could have defended the base. I'm sure you felt that you guys won right up there. Yeah, we just screamed to Kuzan that, we said, you need to win the game for us then, because the opponents were coming their way. And we felt that the game was really against you guys at the mid part of that game. Yeah, it's a different thing where you have Rek'Sai when you have the tremor sense to really know where your opponents are at all time. It just gives us a lot more comfort in making the plays that we want. And mid Corki is a seemingly popular pick in mid lane right now. And we've seen you play it in previous times, but what do you think of the champion right now? I think, Corki, going back to Corki, is the same thing as Karma, where it's a very safe pick that it has very little risk. So it's but I think with the late game, it's good, but the early game you have to watch out for it. It is definitely a hidden card for me, where I can always pull it out. So against a very strong team in Samsung, you guys do get the victory with a 2-0. Would you like to say anything to your fans regarding the win? It's our first game of the second round robin, and we feel good that we got the win off of it. And I'll try personally harder to make it more to these appearances, to these interviews. So you guys just keep cheering out for me. So that seems to be the end of the interview. Back over to you guys.
Thank you very much, Joel. And I believe that if Kuzan is going to get LeBlanc again, then you could almost guarantee that more visits to the MVP interview will certainly be a thing. Smithy?
If he can keep it in the meta, if he can keep growing his champion pool, and also just play as intelligently as he did in a series like this, Jin-Air Greenwings, their ceiling is still undefined. It seemed pretty clear in the spring season, and yet you have to really try and wake me up. It feels like a Jin-Air dream, and as a team that's been long struggling, it must be a massive boon to their fans, who they now move to 5-5, a positive game score. They go into the break for Rift Rivals about as confident as can be.
Yeah, and evening things up, and Samsung is going to fall behind SKT. And if SKT take down MVP in their next match, I feel like the top of the table has reached some level of normalcy, with Longzhu Gaming still performing above and beyond what they managed to put forward in spring, but with the way they changed their roster, they are looking so much better, especially after that victory narrowly over the Afrika Freaks, which was so fun. If you didn't see it, go watch the VOD.
There'll be one more match day tomorrow. That'll be over at the Gangnam Stadium. BBQ Olivers versus Everate, so trying to get some wins into our bottom place teams before two Rift Rivals teams collide.
Yeah, MVP looking to try and do what they couldn't against SKT last time, but it was so much closer than we were expecting in that series. I have a feeling that there could potentially be some upset opportunities, but I mean, never bet against SKT. I feel like it's one of those things where it's like you're trying to hype up something that really, deep down, you know, it's just going to be SKT winning.
Even just going with pride over to Rift Rivals would be big. And speaking of Rift Rivals, you and I will be going to Rift Rivals next week. So, guys, that'll be happening on Riot Games 2, bringing back a channel
Dusting
that
off
hilariously
the Riot Games 2.
We used to broadcast LPL on back in spring of 2015. So Riot Games 2, we start on Thursday next week. Korean Standard Time, Australian Standard Time. Not sure about any more details. There are posts on esports and things like that, but we'd love you to join us. SKT, KT, Samsung, and MVP, the top 4 teams from spring season, go over to face the best from the LPL and the LMS, so should be a lot of fun. I feel like it's going to be competitive, but also maybe we will see famous picks, you know, Max playing the Blitzcrank. It isn't for Worlds implications. It's more about regional pride.
Yeah, regional pride, and we might see people demonstrating exactly what they're known for. So the fact that MVP are going, even though they're straddling the very bottom of the table, they have Max, who's probably likely to pick up. Maybe he's going to be the one playing Akali, but just in the support position.
Ah, yes, big lane presence. Just throw out those Qs.
All of the CC of the
You
Twilight
can push
Shroud.
with your E-Max. You can harass with Q.
Oh, fantastic.
These are the options there.
Wait,
Relic Shield?
Think about building Redemption and then going into Twilight Shroud, and then you guarantee to be healed by the Redemption. Oh, pair that with the Spirit Visage, and you got one hell of a heal, Papa Smithy.
No, make it stop.
And
make him stop!
You have to now travel to Australia with me. How incredibly exciting.
I've got really big earplugs.
You better need them.
Oh, boy. Yeah. Well, the Korean cast is still talking, but we're really excited about next week going to Rift Rivals. International events are always cool. Won't be on site. Won't be able to see the players and interact with them, but we'll be out of the Oceanic studio, so we get to go back to Australia.
Yeah, get to go back to Australia and go back and see so many fantastic casters and friends of ours who we haven't been able to see for a long time. So expect some sweet synergy and banter on the desk as well.
The sick bants is inevitable.
Oh, some severely sick bants as we are going to
Great nationality ratio, 50% Australian, 50% not Australian.
Exactly right. Of course, joining Rusty as the Australian contingency.
Yeah.
I like how we need to import more people to Australia to make it, like, even out, which is just brilliant.
We couldn't quite grab pastry time. I don't know if we actually made an attempt to, but we should have.
Yeah, we should have. What were we thinking? Maybe he'll come back. Maybe we're like keeping him in
a secret guest?
Yeah.
It's not a secret guest, but maybe a secret guest.
Maybe a secret guest, but he's definitely not a secret guest.
We don't want to keep your hopes up. But
wait, maybe tweet at pastry time, but know that we're definitely kidding. We'll see you guys next time, and we'll see you at Rift Rivals.